with meaning.
Hello, welcome to Making Moves, where each week myself, Russ Hastings, and Kieran Antill discuss one company from somewhere in the world repositioning in their market for growth that week, or close to that week. Always picked from a couple of options sent to us by our team with very little notice, always unscripted, always unedited, and therefore always with the need for some sort of liquid stimulation. So what are you sipping on this week, Kieran?
I'm doing the ill-advised late afternoon coffee. So,
In a what? Captain America cup?
Yeah, no, actually, that is a gift from my wife. Maybe she thinks that I should be more or less like Captain America. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm falling into a little bit of a trend actually. I've gone for Shine Charged again.
Yep.
I have
Yes.
mixed up the flavor, blood orange this week. Don't know if that makes a difference, but yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. All right, so this week we are talking about a company called Litera, which is a legal tech company in the US. The reason that we picked this from the options provided is probably because of the stakes involved with the repositioning, or the boldness of the repositioning, let's say. So for a little bit of context, Litera has been around for, I think, something like 25 to 30 years. Their origins, they've always been a tech company, a software company, but their origins are in automating legal document review, like redline review. Obviously with a proposition around saving time and accuracy in legal admin departments, legal secretarial work, paralegal sort of work. So quite a straight up proposition. Over the last 30 years, they've grown. They've gone through some pretty aggressive periods of M&A under private equity stewardship. And they're now the incumbent in that market. They have 1 million users a day, and they serve 99% of the AmLaw 100 law firms in America, the top 100 law firms in America. So they've got massive market share, massive adoption around that niche proposition. And now this repositioning, and it's not all at once, this has been on the back of kind of piecing together the bits of this in the face of obviously quite a lot of AI disruption. AI can, certainly promise to do a lot of what we've just described as their origins. So they have now gone live with a repositioning where they're saying they support everything to do with the practice and business of law. So basically, they are a tech platform provider that do everything from those origins through to knowledge management, I think kind of CRM and practice management software, workflow stuff. So it's kind of your Workday, your Google Drive, your all these sorts of stuff, but for your law firm. So it's interesting. I find it quite an interesting one because they've obviously had remarkable product market fit and market adoption with their initial proposition. I mean, that's an insane amount of the top end of town for a certain market for a company to have. Obviously, the potential upside is you convert that scale into a bigger, more involved engagement. You become the platform that they use, that all your challengers have to plug into. The risk is you blow your proposition, you push beyond where you're known and trusted, and you potentially damage or erode some of your market share. But I like the boldness of the move. So when we talk about making moves, they're certainly making one. You had a little look at some of how it's being messaged and being taken to markets. What's your observation?
I think they've done a really good job. I think it's going to really work. I think that they're doing the basics quite well. As far as the creative lens of it, it's all kind of corporate's world. That is kind of what they're about. Serious lighting. If you're serious about lawyering, I think all those things are the right things. I mean, again, they're not trying to disrupt what they're doing. They're trying to expand on what they're doing. So they're not really changing their tone of voice and things like that as well. I think they're kind of modernizing what they're doing. My favorite line that I'm seeing through the pick, there's definitely an AI, I would say, behind a lot of these lines, because they like to play the little puns and everything. But like my favorite one is minimize busy work, maximize lawyering. That's one that I think is funny through there. But ultimately, what they're doing is very much leaning on, they're defending their position, or basically saying 30 years of experience in doing all these things, you can't trust a company that's just popped up. Lots of AI companies are popping up everywhere. They're positioning all of those companies as features. They're popping up with a new feature, but they're not actually understanding what is required, and they're pushing the fear button, which is around, close enough is not good enough. Not in law. That might be okay for some other industry, but in law, we understand what we're about. So they've got lines, and I think probably one of the stronger one, which is sort of like probably is not good enough. And then looking at efficiency without accuracy isn't going to get you growth. So that I think they're doing a very good job of what it is the pain point and the fear of their target audience being the law firm, that would stop them adding another company to their tech stack. And definitely the question mark around any AI is, wait, hang on, that's super efficient, but is it actually correct? And is it going to cost us more in there? So they're doing a very good job of going right after the reason in defending their position.
Yeah, I guess the two things they're doing is they're going broad. I think they say one agent across. So this is from an AI perspective. One agent across the firm spans draft and comparison, contract review, institutional knowledge, and client development. So no separate tool to learn, no separate login, no separate data set. So they're on one hand going after that broad proposition against the kind of, I guess, niche challenges. But there's also this line that the chief product officer came out with, which I thought was great. One, AI is table stakes. Trust is the moat. So they're really leaning into this idea. I think he says, you can't retrofit years of deterministic accuracy, and you can't pilot your way into the AmLaw 100. So they're going broad, but they're also saying when it comes to AI in law, and I think I'm correct in saying that if you're found to have used AI in case prep, in case notes, then you're disbarred. I think, no strikes, out straight away. So just on their campaign, I think it's interesting. They've kept some of their roots in there in terms of they've got lines like faster than the speed of law and the busy work line like yours, but that's all coming underneath this idea. I obviously like the platform line, raise the bar. Can't beat a bit of punnery. Cheesy in any other industry, quite brilliant in theirs, perhaps. But it all comes under that, right? Yes, fast. Yes, speed. Yes, whatever. Everyone else will promise you that as well. Yeah. But to your point, close enough is not good enough in this context.
I actually think what's interesting, you can find it online if you look up sort of Litera's relaunch. They do something that I think is a weird human psychology that they're even sharing. We've done a rebrand and why we've done it, and it's almost this, shouldn't we keep all that behind closed doors? But actually, like explaining why they're moving their brand, why they changed their brand, they're including their thinking with their target audience who will ultimately see that at some point. So the strange thing, but rather than just like we've got a new logo, it's why have we changed these things? We have changed these things for this reason. I think it's a very good bridging campaign. Another thing I think it's a really good case study to look at is I love a good headline-driven campaign for a bridging campaign, because it's a really great way to test a lot of messaging, and it's a great way to really write out what is the value proposition here. And I think they express it in multiple ways with what is mostly fairly stock imagery and then a thing, but they're developing something there. I think that they could be working more in some of the distinctive assets, but and that's not a criticism. It's just sort of seeing where they can go from there. So I really like their approach. I think that's really important thing. And again, people don't. Just says that any customer, they don't want more in their tech stack. They want their tech stack to do more. So the big advantage they've got is they're already in the tech stack of many of their clients.
As long as you don't erode the trust associated with what you do. So I think I was trying to think of analogs to this sort of move, and the closest I can think of is the big four tax advisory firms all of a sudden saying, "Oh, we're in the boardroom of all the top companies in every market in the world. Let's expand into some of these other areas that they're doing, like management consulting and transformation advisory and all that kind of stuff." And I don't know enough about the numbers over the years, but certainly from the outside looking in, some of them have kind of lost their way and got in a bit of trouble. Certainly been cutbacks along the way from moving away from their core. Who knows? You might look at the numbers and overall it's massively successful. But I think it is that there is a cautionary tale in there. It's interesting what you mentioned. I like the fact that the announcement, the campaign, the storytelling and meaning being instilled into the new platform and the logo, it is all at the end. Too often we see that being the repositioning and there's no substance behind it, but they've seemingly almost kind of built the substance along the way. And now they're announcing the kind of packaging that brings it all together, which is, I think, a good way to do it. And we've done a lot of work, obviously, by Nilo with private equity, and have seen firsthand just how hard it is to piece all the bits of rapid M&A together into a coherent, cohesive proposition and branded market. So it's not to be understated, at least on the surface, how cleanly they seem to have been able to do that.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think is a great lesson to look at, and if you're listening to this and you're a CEO, I like any campaign where you have a CEO explaining why you've done things to your brand. I don't want to hear from the CMO. Frankly, I don't. I want to hear from whoever represents the full company, and that is the CEO, that many can refer to as this chief brand officer. It's coming from their mouth that says, this is why brand is so important to us and the things that we're doing. I think that it's no disrespect to a CMO. It is the fact that you want it coming from the mouth of the CEO, because otherwise you end up kind of doing this thing, which is this promotional thing, and it's not a message of how we're changing our whole organization.
And if you're in a tech company, you got to wear a hoodie, right?
Right. Of course you do. Yeah. You got to have a logo on you somewhere as well.
But I agree that that's connected to that point of the promotions bit is coming as the packaging and the polish on what has been a series of strategic decisions that have related to brand architecture, to target audience. And you can see, if you go on the Litera website, they're very clear about their target audience. Their sectors they serve are small law firms, large law firms, global law firms, right? So they very, very focused target audience, work that's brought everything together, very clear value proposition, seemingly a reasonably clear kind of brand personality, and M&A activity that has led up to, and internal innovation work that has pieced the bits of this proposition together and then announced very publicly with a new brand platform and a campaign. So it's a true kind of company-wide approach to repositioning in what seems to be a very quite an impressive way. We're running short of time, so as always, one key takeaway from the company we've looked at today that listeners can take on board.
I would say put your CEO in any bridging campaign if you're doing a rebranding. I think that's an important takeaway.
Yes.
Yes.